Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our CCL Vanguard Open. We apologize about the wait. We got a lot of matches happening between all of these rounds, and now we're coming up with our very last round of the Swiss bracket. That is round number 7. And for this one, Andy, we got quite the banger. We got Texas State going up against Concord Maroon. We just saw Concord come off a massive win as well.
Yeah, and we saw earlier when we had both Alex and Mick calling the match that Texas State came up a little bit short in that last map versus ASU Maroon. So a lot of narratives are being built, but they are still 5-1. That is their only loss throughout the entirety of the Swiss. What are they going to be able to do versus the undefeated Concord Maroon? Will they finally knock them down a peg going into that double elimination bracket? Who knows?
Who knows? Well, we're going to find out as we also go through this entire broadcast. We'll tell you guys kind of what's happening and what's been going on so far as we've had a couple matches play out for us. You can see it. Day 1 was the tournament play. That was yesterday off stream. We are now, of course, on day 2 as we've went through multiple rounds on the day. We are now in round number 7. And as we get towards tomorrow, those will be our top 8 teams competing in a double elimination bracket to see who will be taking away the championship. But on top of the schedule, we also have the format to kind of break things down for you as well. And well, we've kind of hit it quite a few times, but it has been a bit of a change up with the Swiss bracket playing a total of 7 matches. They're all playing best of 3. So you have to get the better part of 2 maps out of 3. And then once we move over again, it will be that double elimination with our top 8 teams, meaning that this round number 7 right now, Andy, is probably one of the most important rounds to come out with.
It absolutely is, because there are so many teams right now that if you go take a look at the bracket that are tied up at 4-2 apiece, it's going to come down to head-to-head, as we can also take a look at what all of these teams are battling for when we finally get to that double elimination bracket. What's it matter for? It's a 2.5K, baby. First place is going to be walking away with 1,500 schmeckles. Second place still gets $750. And third place, of course, for $250. And this is what's so awesome about these kickoff tournaments is that we're still figuring out what a lot of these colleges are fielding as far as 4-player squads. Maybe they're still trying to figure out what players fit where, and so many different circumstances that could end up changing depending on weaponry before the season actually kicks off.
That's right. And, well, also have to go through the maps that we have coming up for our very last round. And we've had some fun ones, but to end things off for us, we're going back over towards Gavutu for the very first hard point. We'll then transition into another hard point on Berlin. And if need be, we will go to a search and destroy on Demyansk.
Yeah, and honestly speaking, I mean, coming back to Gavutu, this is actually a pretty good map if you're looking at the side of Texas State, especially for what they were able to do versus ASU. Because their ARs were certainly more online, you're going to be looking a lot at Tactic and Pandemic for what they were able to bring to the table continuously through not only this kickoff tournament, but even some returning members for Texas State just last season to be able to really put a dent into the hard-plated armor that is Concord Maroon right now.
That's right. I think that's really the best way to kind of frame it up, right? They are completely flawless. They have already guaranteed themselves into the double elimination bracket. So even if they were to lose this, it wouldn't ultimately matter, but I'm sure it still looks a lot better on the resume to say, hey, we went flawless. We won every single round. That just has a little bit of a better ring to it, doesn't it? So Texas State, to be fair, they have an opportunity to try and do it, and they played a very close set versus ASU. Now, ASU also played Concord very close as well. That was the match that we just came off of there proper, and ASU were doing a good job of building up a very early lead, but Concord were much better at being able to make some of those changes as we got to the second set of hills, and were able to kind of find a lot of success and make sure that they were holding on to their leads, which is something that ASU were not doing. And you go back towards ASU and Texas State, I think that one of their first games was like 6-point differential, so they were playing each other very close here, which means that we are probably in for another exciting matchup to end off round 7.
Yeah, and if you go back to that matchup, too, I mean, ASU and Texas State were trading blow for setup, but they were really lacking some of those mid-map adjustments that we were highlighting for Concord Maroon. So how are you going to be able to offer us here for Texas State Esports as we load into Gavutu Hardpoint in this best-of-3 series? Last match here, round number 7 of the Swiss.
Let's get into it, baby. I hope you guys are locked in. Let's see how the last match plays out. Already, Scripps has found himself on the hill, soaking up time. Player down low, he's going to completely ignore and say, listen, I'm not worried about you right now. I'm simply worried about the subs trying to fight me. And Crook says, well, I'm going to take that fight to you. Finds 2, Prod's able to find one more, and Concord with some early control here on P1.
Yeah, we saw on Twitter, Crick was certainly feeling themselves with how they were moving through Gavatsu in that round number 6 versus ASU, looking to continue on the momentum on a 3 spree so far. Hitting it over towards the LST ship, we'll be able to find Tactic. That's number 4. One more elimination off of the glide bomb. And again, it's just so crucial here. Every single hard point, more or less, is out in the open. You can find value with it across the entirety of the map.
You very much can. Crooked on 4. Let's see if he can build up those streaks we're talking about right now. Last time Concord were not too good on this hill when we watched them. We'll see if the streaks come in. They do not. Tactic with a massive kill to make sure the glide bomb is not going to come through. Prod up top, 3 in a row, maybe working for a streak of his own. Nice shots coming through. Scripts will drop. Concord making this transition over to P2 is good, but again, the streaks have not come in. So this has been good out of Texas to make sure that there's no snowballing happening, but they got to get on the point. That's what they have to look to do next.
Oh, Crick with the jump peek is able to read one. Look at the finesse coming around on the opposite side of the docks, but they'll read 2 were players on the opposite side of the staircase. Who's able to pick it up inside the hill? It will be Prodigy. And they have some great help on the opposite side, too. Locking things down so far. Just scrap time is what we're fighting over before we focus on the rotation over towards New. It looks like Texas State want to try to keep all of Concord trapped inside this boat as they rotate up to ring before we pop in towards that side of the beach.
This is going to be a really important hill for Texas State. You give Concord just a little bit too much breathing room, and sometimes they will run away with the map. Still only about 40 points, and Texas are going to be here first, and that's a very clean feed that does come through successfully for them. Pandemic up top here on 2 in a row. Will get taken down by a nade. Tactic, though. He's been playing the circle, zoning off a lot of these players here from Concord, also making them spawn deep, but he's going to decide to back up and see if he can play with his teammates as Pandemic again picks up that position. So the teamwork has been great. A lot of zoning has been coming through. Texas State, they've got themselves right back in this game.
And this is something that we've come to know and love about Texas State coming off of the Cold War season. Pandemic, obviously, the newcomer here, as Scripps is able to find 1 more onto Crook, 2 more off of that glide bomb, has had a very successful P3 here so far for Texas State, but they do a great job of keeping their ARs in very nice locations. Scripps smokes Prod off of that heady. Good shots out of the kid, but still, when you have Tactic, Scripps, and Draco being able to push up so quickly, they are much like the same of what we're saying from Stook, Crook, and Prodigy, as well as Trauma on the opposite side. You give them any bit of space to run, well, they're going to absolutely start flying through the map.
Concord, really good at breaking a lot of the hills so far on the day. But this one they did struggle with a bit when we watched them in the last series. Let's see if anything has changed. So far, Draco's found 2, and Tactic's like, uh-oh, I'm already inside of the point, but everyone's going to be able to find those kills. No trades, no one gets to the back. Crook's the only one that ends up finding a kill. So far, so good. 35 seconds left. The next hit comes through, and there comes Concord. They'll make sure that they will find the push successfully the second time around. The break is in, and Concord might just scoop up the remaining 20.
They might, but they didn't end up pushing all the way up to the north side of the jungle, so that means that all of Texas will still spawn in. Concord must be scratching their head. Crook's sitting there saying, hey, I'm double positive. 14 and 7, what the heck is going on? How do we not break the spawns? It almost feels like about 70 to 80 seconds of unanswered hardpoint time from Texas State. They get gifted the opportunity to have those closer spawns, but what can they do with it? Now they're the ones that have to break coming into the new hill.
Well, making this rotation is never easy when you're coming off that last hill, that is for sure. But let's see if they can do it. They're doing a good job of taking the high ground on the boat to start battling some of these lower positions. They do have to get through Prod. That will be the first one. As you can see, everyone just posting up, waiting for peaks, but Stuckey apparently is just ripping them to pieces on the other side of the boat. Prod finds another. 3 will drop. The ARs are just too much, and Prodigy shows us that he can do it with the Automaton or the MP40. Everything has been coming together. Concord have got the first 35 seconds, and finally, Texas State are getting a little bit of map control to try to contest the hill.
It's just an interesting point of conversation, too. Draco and Pandemic, they both have SCGs. Now, I'm not too sure if Draco just picked one up or if they're just using it. It looks like that they ended up picking it up off the ground, but regardless of the matter, it's just an interesting conversation of what the range might have to offer versus the Automaton, which is an absolute bullet hose. But when it comes down to breaking hills and holding on to them, you're going to get a lot of these medium to close range engagements, and that's when the Automaton can turn your enemies into Swiss cheese. So once we go towards the second set of hills, just about damn near even from these teams. Concord Maroon just nullifying that 70 seconds that almost went unanswered.
Well, very nice from Draco. Able to avoid that glide bomb with some nice movement, but still, it allows everyone to start to push up on the map here for Texas State. Inside of the hill, They will currently have it in their control, but Prod is going to eliminate one of the players that was responsible for getting the time. So now you take a look, and neither team really has control of the hill. You'll see Concord move in for a very quick second, but on the outside here, Prod needs to find value. Scripps will take him down. Crook responds with a trade. It is chaos, but Tactic and Draco, they will clear out the point and get the remaining scrap time here.
And here's the conversation coming off of ASU's match versus Concord. Again, 228 to 250 was that score line, but ASU Maroon really struggled on keeping pace with Concord Maroon in these scrappy situations, like on P1 or rotating over towards P2. They've been able to answer blow for blow so far. Another two-piece comes through. Trauma is struggling to lock down the elimination on a Draco. Another 4 down comes through for Texas State, and they get the rotation, turning scrap into initial.
Whew. Texas State getting themselves a bit of a lead here. Concord on the back foot. Not a position we see from them too often, but there are some clean kills. Now they just got to worry about the players inside of the point here, and they can start grabbing some of that time for themselves here inside of the boat. They deal with the player up top. Prod will unfortunately take out Crooked. So now you need Stuckey to get some work done, and he will be denied. The zoning, the control, it has been flawless thus far. Texas State locking down a hill that is not easy to lock down, and Tactic finds another. Stuckey's going to give it one last attempt, but Tactic finds 2 and says, get out of my hill.
That's another 3 down. The MP40s coming out from Texas State are absolutely beaming. This was their conversation point just last season, that their SMGs have been absolutely beaming towards the end of the season. It looks like the offseason has treated them quite well, coming in towards Vanguard, where you can absolutely be benefited from playing at a very fast pace. You just got to lock down the shots, but the rotation is being called for. Concord Maroon with the close response. Got to read the hit coming through on the beachfront, and they simply can't find the eliminations. 2 more come through.
121 to 205. Texas State. I mean, they are doing it, but Stuckey, he wants to get his team back in the game. How about a 3K? And that will at least give them some control. Prod with a stun kill will stop a lot of the next push coming through for Texas State. You need to find Stuckey. And hey, this is maybe Concord's chance to get back in this game, because if Stuckey can work for some streaks here, it could make the difference, but he needs to find this last kill for the Glide.
That's the STG looking for that glide. Bombs being shot from the side. Their teammates are just picking up all the eliminations, but this is okay because now you're able to find some space. Crook will be dropped to the ground by Draco, who finds another 2-piece with the STG. Stuckey still on that 4 streak, looking for the potential glide bomb. Would be massive coming in towards this rotation. You can see where Concord Maroon currently are on the mini-map. You're going to have Prod pushed up pretty darn close over towards this back jungle side, trying to deal with players coming through the cut off of the boat, and they deal with it in kind.
Well, the roles will be flipped. To trying to break this hill now will be Texas State. Concord in control. They have brought this back a bit, but here comes the push. Pandemic finds 1. You got to deal with Prod. He almost found the 3K, and now it's a 1v1 inside the point. Stuckey will take it, and he earns himself the glide. 1 off the strafing run. These streaks could make or break the game, but Concord, they were down by about 80 points, and they have closed the gap. With this remaining scrap time, this game is just about tied.
That's insane. Considering that you had Texas State through the first set of hills, they went about like 70, 80 seconds unanswered. Here comes the glide bomb from Stuckey. A lot of information. We'll see the player up on top of ring. Won't even tag them, but they did see the 2 over here. This bought a lot of space for Concord to be able to get on top of the LST ship and look at the rotation over towards docks.
Prod here from the middle. Will get cut down. Draco's having one hell of a game right now at 29 kills. But this hard point, one of the most important ones thus far, and Trauma and Stuckey have broke it open. 45 seconds to play for, still plenty of time, and now the streak's starting to rain on through. Let's see how much value this strafing run is going to find. Stuckey on 7, keeping the streak going. Will actually end up dropping, but Stuckey takes one with him. Control still, though, for Texas State. 30 seconds to play for, but that's a clean feed for Concord Maroon as they'll throw their bodies on the point.
Yeah, they're zoning them away on the bottom side of this office. Look at Crook getting antsy. 27 to 19 for them. We'll just lay on their belly for the time being, as Texas State are starting to focus on the rotation across back over towards the map so they can get control of P1. But who's over here? It's Prod. Like you said, having themselves a whale of a game. 31 to 19 on a 3 streak. Same for Crook. The potential to play for streaks to close out this game coming in towards the 3rd set of hills is absolutely on the table.
Concord, just when you think they're down, they're right back in the game. And Scripps will be able to find 2 on this rotation, however, and those are just such important kills. to give them a chance to go 1-0 up in this series. Here come the rest of the streaks right now. The bombing run has come through. The knife inside the point going rogue. Script says not today. And now Texas State just need another 15 points to lock in map number 1. Concord got 1 push left, and Draco is shutting it down for the middle of the map. They gotta touch, they gotta run in. Can they do it? Tactic for 1, tactic for 2. That might have sealed the deal as Scripps gets the trade. Nobody can touch, and Texas State will come up with map number 1.
It's just very slow for those mid-map adjustments that we were highlighting for Concord Maroon. Texas State are able to exploit that one factor that was, well, hey, we can go blow for blow. We can keep up with the pace that Concord Maroon are looking to set, and they absolutely lay waste to Concord Maroon. Yeah, Prodigy had a great game. Yeah, Crick was still a consistent factor, but what was even more freaky above that, Trauma and Stuckey were almost a non-benefactor. Yes, Stuckey were able to get those streaks, but they were forced to play so slow, almost night and day of what we saw versus ASU, because you almost have to think that it's that same old elementary rule that came through from boxing. Everybody's got to play until they get punched in the face. Same thing might have happened here for Concord Maroon. They came in saying, look, we can just absolutely gun these guys. They lost so many back-to-back gunfights, especially early on, that streaks got earned so quickly. But what was even more impressive for Texas State, they made Gavitu feel so small. I mean, tiny. They were just rotating at the most opportune times, finding rotationary eliminations. It's not easy turning scrap into initial time on Gavitu hardpoint, but Texas State almost made it look easy on that first set.
They really did. And I mean, just what a statement game that was to come in here to a team that has not lost so far on the day, a series that is, and to Texas State, who suffered, you know, a really difficult defeat, to bounce back here, look this strong is just such a massive statement. And to come away with it the way that they did, breaking the setup, I mean, that was the big thing I think that we were praising Concord for in the last series, right, Andy? You really just broke that down beautifully there for us, but it's just have to re-hit it because Concord were so good at being able to find themselves in positions, especially later in the game where they made those changes, they lock things down, they make sure they're playing the trades, and they even had, you know, the chance of earning some streaks, but a lot of those unearned streaks, I feel like play such a massive impact on the game when you talk about a map like Gavitu, and not being able to call on those glides or at least find value with some of those glide bombs and strafing runs really hurts you in the end. So hats off to Texas State Esports for coming away with the map number 1, but that is just the very first map. Let's take a look at the rest of the rotation here for us in the best of 3 in our last round, and as we go in, it will be a Berlin hardpoint that is going to be coming up next.
Dude, Berlin hardpoint, I mean, to the same pace of Gavitu, right? I mean, these are probably the 2 biggest hardpoint maps that we have inside the entirety of the game. A lot more meticulous plays can be exploited here on Berlin, especially when you're thinking of the rotations from 3 all the way over towards 4. If you can try to lock down those rotations, especially getting players inside of mail to cut down the cross all the way through the middle of the map, this is where I can see Texas State being able to close it out in a 2-0. And I'm almost choking over my words just saying that, because this is Concord Maroon that we're talking about. Multi-time kickoff champions, Concord Maroon, especially coming in with these mountain lion cubs of Prodigy and Stuckey. I honestly thought that they were going to be the real deal, but Texas State having 3 returning members, newcomer coming Pandemic, is really holding their own, not unless it's a name change that I didn't know about, but regardless, they're setting up the pace. In Concord Maroon, now they have to answer it on a map that can snowball very, very quickly.
That is the best way to put it. Berlin is just a chaos storm. We love it as casters. I think the majority of us love it as viewers, but sometimes, you know, when you're playing the game, it feels like you do really get put in the blender, and you're like, I'm just trying to move out of my spawn right now, man. I'm just trying to get to the hill, right? Not always easy to do. And on top of that, a lot of the hills have multiple different entrances, and there's a lot to watch here. So sometimes playing really tight and having a lot of synergy and chemistry between your sub players is really what's going to play the difference, you know, and how much time you're actually accumulating throughout the hard points here for us. But you mentioned the biggest factor, and that is the rotations here. I mean, if you don't have someone who's always on top of the rotations, moving, you know, at the right times, it does really feel like you're playing an uphill battle, because there's so much to do on top of that. And having a roaming SMG is the other big factor on Berlin. And I think Concord have that at least perfectly, right? We have Crooked here. This guy loves to get mixy. He loves to put himself in kind of annoying positions, and Berlin is a map that favors that. So ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Concord Maroon, they are flawless on the day, but Texas State, they make a statement here in map 1. Let's see if they can get it done in map 2.
Oh, there it is, Crook for 2, just off the opening rip. I was just about to say it's going to be Tactic on the opposite side, probably watching to be that roaming SMG. The route man got to get paid here on Berlin, but Concord Maroon starting off on the unfavored side, if you will, just absolutely hit through the upper courtyard. Inside the office they go, setting up for P1, which can be a money hill, keep in mind you.
It can be a money hill indeed. Got a good 25 seconds left. I think it was that body shot that just came through in the door already. So maybe some voice comms being exchanged in between the matches. But it is Texas State that had the slow start. There's a good 15 seconds left that they can fight for. Stuckey's going to give it one last try, but Tactic will shut it down and make sure he secures the scrap time for his team.
Into mail we go, and again, this is almost stage 1, if you will, where a lot of broken walls are still intact for you. Trauma able to find Draco on the rotation. Actually almost lost that gunfight, 2 HP. They will stay alive. Scripts, though, on the backside, as well as Tactic, will actually flip out the spawn somehow. Given that the hardpoint is more the center of the map, Concord Maroon thought that that meant that they were blocking the spawns. They simply were not.
Well, here comes the big hit. Prod's going to be able to come through with one. Gets the team shots there from Crooked. And now Pandemic, 0-4 start for him, needs to find value. Crooked will make sure he finds none. Concord coming out with the fire now in Berlin hardpoint. Chance to be able to actually build themselves up a full hardpoint lead here. And Stuckey finding kills like this. No way does he finesse number 3. Scripps is just like, guys, where is he? Where is he? He is in your face, smoking you down. What a play from Stuckey as he'll clean up 3 and buy a lot of room for his team to make a rotation.
And look at the route play. Crook hit the route, is immediately all the way over on the docks on the backside of Fire, looking to where this hardpoint is rotating to. Glide Bomb has been called in by Trauma. They're able to find where a lot of players are located at. Will recognize Scripps is the only one inside the hill, so Crook says, all right, I'm fine with that. I'll hit it. I'll work my way in as the hill stays contested.
This is one of those big money hills. If you control the spawns, you typically control this hill because of how close it is. Prod on 5, though, has just earned himself a glide and I believe just fell after. Scripps. Now the next one up there, able to find himself 2. Make that 3 there from Scripps, but still have to worry about that close spawn. Finally, Concord's going to spawn out and through the front. Would you believe it? Texas State have broke it, flipped out the spawns, and get themselves on some crucial time.
I mean, you said it right there. It is so hard to be able to hit that hill from the front of the courtyard and break the spawns on the backside of the docks. I mean, Concord Maroon, they had 3 sets of spawns coming inside that hill, keeping it contested, keeping it mixy, but now they're going to finally spawn all the way out towards the train yard, where the next hill will be located. You can see the lock and key on your mini-map, but Texas State, they're already hitting it from the north side docks. Down the center road they come. You got to lock down the eliminations, and Prod actually spawns out, so this is going to be an okay time if you are looking at this from Concord Maroon's perspective, given that you still have players inside the hill, locking down the rotation, but this is where things can get nasty.
Oh, Crook calls in the glide, but he actually finds his teammate. Not what you want to see. And now you have no members really to play around you on the point, which means that it's going to be pretty much easy peasy for Texas State to get you off that time. However, still have to battle through the back right now as Crook is trying to control that for his squad. You still see the spawns. They're here for Concord Maroon. But Texas State, they got another attempt to try and break this from the front. Let's see what they can do. Pandemic is able to find himself 2 in a row. Crook is up top. He can come down from above like Batman. Let's see if he can find more than 1. He cannot. Pandemic for 3 has just broke open the setup here from Concord Maroon.
And that 60-point lead has diminished down to just about 10 for Texas State to start clawing their way back, and they're already holding down the rotation over towards New. That's why I said this hardpoint can be an absolute fumble if things go absolutely awry. You can hold the close spawns, was Crook, but you can be put inside a blender. Now Pandemic hits it from the flank, finds 2 on said flank, while the rest of their teammates are still working it from the front. There is number 3. How about an 8th streak coming out from Pandemic? Fully streaked out of their mind. And honestly speaking, these are resources that you do not want Texas State to have if you're a Concord fan.
I mean, I don't usually do math on stream, but, you know, 8 minus 10 here. He was 2-11 before that, right there, and just went on that spree to get himself back in the game. And that is also the reason why we see a tie game now on the last point. So let's see if that will continue to trend upwards now for Texas State. But meanwhile, it is Concord that have control of this hill. Now, I never say it's going to be full control, considering that it is a very open hill. It's not easy to watch every single angle, but so far so good, as Concord looked like they might be set up to get the remaining 20 seconds or so, but everyone really turning that focus over to P1, and almost a double comes through there for Trauma, but it's Scripps and Tactic to find a couple of key rotational kills.
Scripps has to go big, though, has to hold their life, but simply can't. Just too many angles to be worried about. In towards a second set of hills, we will go back to the office hardpoint. It is just about a 30-40 second lead that Concord Maroon currently hold over Texas State. I mean, they're not necessarily overly outslaying, but Prodigy just holding their own 14-9. Nice little elimination coming through there from Crook, 14-9 for the kid as well. Set of eliminations following in suit, and Concord Maroon on this P1 hill. Again, I said that this can turn into a money hill, and they're making that a fact.
They sure are. Crooks, 3 in a row. You do not want to give this 25 seconds over. Pandemic. How many can he find? He's been able to find 1. He's got help. Crook will be able to get 1, and Trauma gets the 2nd. Beautiful teamwork for Concord. That full 60, that full money hill you just mentioned has just come through now for them, and now Prod looking to see if he can find some kills with the streak.
We'll see 1, we'll chase all the way down. Can't find the elimination, but they're going to be able to recognize there's 1 player just locked inside the shed. Prod's going to try to lock down that angle, but all of Texas State, they found refuge inside of Mail. Set it 3 eliminations come through in sequence. What can Stookie do? Well, they're getting berated with bullets. They know that somebody's up on the 2nd floor. Oh, hey, how's it going? Now the challenge up top 3rd. Can't find the 2nd, though, as Texas State look to set up here in Mail.
Setting up in Mail, and you need to hold it inside of Mail right now, too. Scripps 8 and 14, bit of a slow start, and will get jumped on, and that means that's a full wipe. I cannot believe Concord have just broken that hill the way that they have, but that also comes along with how many entry points there are to this hard point, and now Trauma just going absolutely massive in the back, has just found 2 in a row. Rotation now currently taking place. Tactic has won a big one-on-one, but he's got no real assistance with him.
This lead has grown exponentially for Concord Maroon. Another 3 set of eliminations come through. Crook on 5 has another glide bomb, 22 and 10. Pandemic calls in their glide bomb. We'll see that there is 1, 2, all around this hill, but they can't find much of anything besides information. Now it comes down to Texas State to capitalize on it.
Here we go. They did it last time. Let's see if Texas State can break this hill again. Right through the front. Grips is going to fall, but Draco is still alive. He went big in the map number 1. You need him to go big right here, right now. The hill is contested. Draco's checking his corners. We'll be able to find some shots there. Stookie will drop. Take a look at where the spawns are going to be. It's still there for Concord Maroon in the back, but it's looking good inside of the hill for Texas State. But for how long? Kills need to keep coming through, and Tactic's the only one here, but Tactic has found 2. Trauma will get the trade, and now that's bot time for Pandemic, and he get 2 as well. Unbelievable. Pandemic and Tactic have just single-handedly kept their team in the game to make sure all of that scrap time does not go over for free.
I mean, this P3 hill, I tell you, man, has just been hanging on a lifeline for Texas State on through 2 separate occasions. Holding it from the front, again, is no easy feat. But you're still down about 90 points versus Concord Maroon. Going in towards this 4th hill down here at the train yard, Texas State need this setup to be big.
You need this time. You need this time. Concord Maroon, streaks to play with. They have just found 2 players around the point, 3 players around the point. The spawns look to still be here for Texas State, and they respond back with 3 kills of their own. So a very important response to, again, keep them at least alive in the map number 2. Crook from the front, however, wants to break open the point, and it looks like that might have just done it. 1 kill comes through. Pandemic from the side has been able to get himself 1. Draco trying to find toes underneath the train. Won't be able to find that kill. 15 seconds up for grabs, but Concord, I mean, they can play for scrap. They can play for the rotation. They have all the cards in their hands.
Yep, winner's advantage has fully taken into effect, 228 to 149. It's got to be 12 seconds short, just about 11 seconds is what you can give up is Texas State's win condition here to be able to close it out, but that's flawless hardpoint at its finest, going inside a very mixy hill. Concord Maroon looking for the setup inside of the train station and on top courtyard. We'll end up seeing Pandemic's glide bomb is able to find 1, plus some information, but again, they have been given so much information, but unable to capitalize on it throughout this entirety of the hardpoint, Austin.
That's right. Still down by quite a bit, too. And feeling the need to try and get on that time. Means that the patience will pay off. Concord now. 2:32. Stookie from the window finds another one. And will throw himself on top of the time. 30 seconds to play for Texas State. They got to send resources. They got to send numbers to this point. They can't let it go over because Concord, they could still end it. But with 3 players going down, Texas State now need to find a very big heroic moment. And Tactic needs to do it from the pinch. Tactic has found 2. But Crook answers back with the trade. Still able to end it here if Concord can get themselves on the time, but they're willing to give it up and just play for the rotation. It could be all said and done unless Pandemic can make a massive entry to the new hill. There's one. No, it won't be two. Crook finds the trade, and nobody can get here in time. Concord will get us to a map number 3.
I mean, it was all just P1 now, wasn't it? I mean, through 2 different sets of hills, Crook just goes crazy. Through the opening rip, he, again, what I was saying about Gavitu for Texas State happened here on Berlin for Concord. I mean, I don't know if you awakened the beast or something and Andrew Crooked or something, but like you said, when body shots are starting to come through, maybe there are some comms coming out the end. We have no idea, but they just absolutely turned up the pace to about 12. If it was already at a 10 between the SMG players, in between all 8 players in this lobby, Crook just thought it up to about 12, and that made the AR's job so much easier. I mean, when you have a roaming SMG, anchoring spawns, slaying out inside the hill, finding value with streaks, I mean, you gotta just be living on cloud 9 if you're an AR player. All you gotta do is just lock down a lane, maybe find a couple eliminations here and there. Crook was going big for their team that map.
Yes, I mean, there feels like there was maybe something else in the air there, pushing them to make sure that we do, in fact, keep this 7-0 record, because that is just quite the bounce back after what was a really big back and forth in map number 1. I'd have to say that was fairly convincing for the most part there on Concord's side. So now as we look at the rest of the series here for ourselves, we do get our very first S&D, at least for Andy and I, to see who in fact will come out with the 2-1 victory. But as you see it there, 250 to 217 in the map number 1 if you did miss the Gavutu hardpoint. And then as we just saw, the Berlin hardpoint, all Concord, looking very solid, very convincing. But we head over to an S&D on Dem Yance. And proper, we have our opinions about this map, but what we do know is we get to see some sniper play, we get to see a lot of SMG rushes, and as we get more and more into the game, it feels like at least different strategies have been developed. It isn't as much one-dimensional strategies as we were seeing kind of played off the rip in the first week of the game. It feels like now you can work for picks, you can work for these plants, and there's ways to get inside of church as well to try and lay this bomb down here for ourselves, at least on the attack. So I'm curious to see at least what both of these teams have planned for us, because this is one of the maps that you're either super prepped for or you're not prepped for whatsoever because you just dislike the map.
Yeah, it's such... put that on a t-shirt and sell it, man. Like, because you're so right. Because Dem Yance, ever since Vanguard had released, it has been a big staple for a lot of players not necessarily to enjoy, and that's specifically around submachine gun players.
Yes.
And when we're talking about Dem Yance as a full, everything that Austin was just talking about, I'll give you guys a little fun little tidbit that when this game first launched, Austin and I were nerding out so sufficiently that we were looking at different timings, and it's so tight for an SMG player, say at Crook Draco's caliber, to be able to find that push on offense from the cabin all the way over towards the church. Now, we did see it in a handful of kickoff tournaments, and I have been seeing it a little bit more in scrimmages, all the way up to the CDL level, Austin, but it's so tight to be able to find value with it. You almost have to lean on your ARs to be able to lock down that B-bomb lane, being able to lock down that forest path, and you also brought up the wonderful fact that Car 98Ks are very much so in play. You're only allowed 1 per team, and that one sightline that you can either offer on the top right of church, top left of church, either one of those headies that are offered to you, or that opening pickoff that you can get from the cabin side could be so crucial to any team's success, defense or offense alike.
It's very true. And I feel like this map is a lot of give and take. It's a lot of how much are you willing to risk offensively and defensively. And it's not too often that we've actually framed up that question, in previous Call of Duties, where it feels like defensively you don't really have to take risk, but in this game, in this map, you do. You have to either be peeking for information, whether that's, peeking your little eyelids over the top of the roof, or whether or not that's, taking aggressive challenges over to the bridge to see, hey, are they actually trying to rush across to get inside of the house here? If so, boom, I can calm that, maybe even find a pick and get your teammates in position to be able to at least play off of that information. But there is a lot of, different peeking and different value you can get with a sniper rifle on a map like this here for ourselves. And I mean, Dem Yance, it's very difficult to figure out for some teams, and it feels like when things are going wrong, they're going really wrong here. So making sure you at least get yourself a couple rounds on the board, I feel like, is most important when you're playing this map mode combination for us overall here. But at that same moment, anyone just tuning in, This is a big one, back and forth. I mean, this is going the distance. This is our very last round of Swiss play, and Concord, they've already guaranteed themselves a spot, but this is a big match for Texas State because, as Andy had said, there was a lot of teams that are currently tied that are fighting to get into that top 8 because there's only 8 teams making it through, meaning that every single win matters, and with already the build-up story between both of these guys, you know how badly Texas State would love to not only get to bracket play, Andy, but also make sure that Concord doesn't go through to bracket play flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, probably sitting there saying that even if they lose to Concord Maroon, probably upset that they lost that ASU Search and Destroy, that map number 3. It was very heartbreaking on Berlin for them. And you almost have to think for Texas State, who've just been absolutely slaying out, have been finding pace for pace versus Concord Maroon, have to get a mental reset. Yes, it was 250 to 157. You kind of got put in the blunder there on the Berlin hardpoint through a lot of different hills, but you have to mentally reset yourself. Search and Destroy is a different beast within its own right. And like Austin said, you got to start finding yourself some rounds. This is not the kind of map where you just can bull rush towards any one of these sites, and well, you can see why Trauma's going to get caught on the cross.
Already first blood. Looking good, at least for Texas State off the rip in round number 1, but there's a trade. Crook should have been called out, but somehow still wins the gunfight. Will shut down Pandemic in the back. The bomb has been dropped, but you now have switched this numbers advantage over towards Concord, and you still have plenty of time to play with.
Carnady AK in the hand of Draco. Not exactly the best close-range weapon, but hey, hit your shots. But take a look at what Scripps is able to do. They actually hit the flank on the backside of the cabin.
Okay, Draco goes to the automaton. He thought for a second a double was in the cards, but a trade follows. And now Scripps, as you mentioned, he takes this route all the way to the back. He is going to be in a position where I'm not sure if he knows the bomb has been dropped, and yeah, does not seem like he would know, but the timing here, it could be everything. He's going to find Crook. There's the first one. Is he expecting the chase? He's going to try and hop up right now. The 1 versus 1. And all right, we go and take a live look in, I guess, and we go back. So, all right, Concord. Looks like the trade did come through here as we take a look at the kill cam. I was like, what happened?
It was too graphic. We couldn't show you guys. I'm sorry. Sorry, it was too great. The snowy tundras of the USSR here in World War II. You just can't handle it. You can't handle it sometimes. But yeah, the trade does end up coming through. And what started off as a very scary round for Concord Maroon, losing Trauma that early on, ends up benefiting them just from trades alone. Stuckey, with that Carnady AK, won't be able to find some timing. And look at Texas State just buying themselves the space. Some shots will come through over towards Tactic on that forest path. They'll back down for the time being.
Well, Concord certainly playing their defensive round a lot slower, a lot tighter, too. You take a look at the mini-map here. Everyone just about in a position where they could trade off one another. But everyone here now for Texas State, working through this B site. One player over on the bridge, Tactic. You got clean eyes on him there from Cooked. He's going to give the call out to Stuckey. Stuckey just needs to land the shot, but it will not hit the mark. And that will also shrug him off the rooftop for a very quick moment. But that bomb, it's gotten closer and closer to B, but it's going to meet Trauma, who finds it, shuts down the kill, and now the bomb is also going to have to be retrieved here for Texas State.
And Trauma doing their homework, playing those nerdy angles outside of B. Bomb drop, like you said, in a precarious position. But don't worry, that Pandemic is going to hit the flank. They'll take down the sniper. Will be traded back in kind 2v3.
You got to look for Pandemic in the back here, and this really at least sets up the defensive side to maybe fall into a position where they could have lost some 1v1s, but not going to happen. Very clean round for Concord Maroon, and it comes back to that tight setup there for me, Andy. Everyone was in a position to trade off one another.
Yeah, and everybody was looking at the respective lanes, right? I mean, the only lane that was found timing on was all the way down on the Icy Lake. But that's such a hard angle to be able to cover, especially if you're getting all the information with from Stuckey's perspective with the Carnady AK. You want to be looking at the cabin just in case you get a reverse head glitch, if you will, looking at the lumberyard or the forest path. A lot of different things can go awry, but the communication coming through, trade soon to follow for Concord Maroon. We'll start this round with Stuckey, but Draco on the opposite side will find Prodigy. The bomb dropped all the way, wasn't even picked up in spawn, but still, numbers advantage early for Texas.
Oh, Crooked! Crooked! How good is he up close? I mean, the reaction time, the snap, it's there, but Scripps has found him through the wall. We'll just spray and pray. So that is good to at least get one back, but Trauma and Stuckey, the last one's up. Make that all up to Stuckey. who has that sniper rifle. This would be for a 1 versus 3. Grabs that bomb. Now just needs to get himself through Pandemic and Scripps.
Good luck, have fun. Stuckey has a Kar 98K. You would hope for Concord Maroon in this round that you can find this pick and maybe pick up a second weapon, but timing is everything here. You got 30 seconds left to make a play. They'll pull out the pistol. I mean, they got a dead silence if they're really feeling themselves, but gonna try to get themselves inside of A. Finds an MP40 for their cause. The biggest issue here is that you still have Scripps on the roof.
That is the problem. And Scripps, I think, might have heard some potential sound cues because his teammate did come over there. And now Stuckey, I think, is caught in this position where he's like, all right, I got to lay it. Let's see if he can exit off of the site. But both players have not budged. They have not moved. They're finally now going to make their way over, and I think they got eyes on him. There it is. Stuckey will drop. Pandemic finds the head. That is a much-needed round for Texas State to get themselves on the board.
It's a big round. Don't want that momentum coming through from Concord, especially after finding so many first bloods. I mean, that's back-to-back defenses to where Texas State were able to find the first blood. The first one obviously did not end in the way that they wanted to. Trades coming all the way out, but even still, that first blood is just so influential, and that's why I highlighted it very early on. You can get to that rooftop so quickly as a defensive team, and Draco was able to exploit that so wonderfully. So hard to bounce back here on Demyansk when you still have to cross through the icy lakes, the rivers over by the bridge, and everything else in between, but Texas State, what can they do here on offense? Looking for that timing down here by the river. Looks like with the knife out, going to be able to get up close and personal. Pandemic will find Stuckey.
A lot of early first bloods. Tend to see that quite a bit on Demyansk. But now, will things slow down on the attack, or will they try to push their man advantage? Trauma again has just found these angles to catch people on the rush, and Crooked is here to back them up. The teamwork is looking good, at least in S&D. And now it's going to be another pick. So that man advantage that Texas State got themselves at the beginning of the round has now come down to a man advantage over to Concord. And Pandemic and Tactic have to retrieve the bomb and also have to try and find 3 players on Concord Maroon.
And the bomb dropped in that ever-so-loving precarious spot. Pandemic needs to find some crucial timing here. They did it a few rounds ago, but this is going to be a play on 2 different fronts, Austin, as Tactic will recover the bomb. We'll try to get over towards her teammate.
25 seconds left. Let's see what they can do. Tactic up top on the roof, looking for information, searching for kills. Through the back door they will go, peeking through. Will there be sound cues? Maybe it'll be a lineup instead. Wow! Concord, just too good defensively, and that's going to give them that cushion they once had there again, now up 3-1.
Yeah, and I think especially for defense, when you're looking at this from Concord Maroon's perspective, that they're doing such a good job at it, it's just they're not getting overly aggressive. Nobody has to make a play. Again, this map can be so punishing for SMGs, so you play to the strengths. Keep Crooked inside that church on offense. Try to get them up close and personal to make a play happen. It's come through, at least on one offensive round, but there's no need to get overly aggressive. Just watch your lanes, wait for them to make an unforced error, and then capitalize on top of it. Here comes a 4-player hit from Concord Maroon down underneath the bridge.
Smoke's going to go down here, but Pandemic has been able to eliminate 1. Crooked will see him through the smoke somehow. And that gives us an even trade, but right back. Some shots are going to be taken underneath the bridge. This is going to give everyone on the side of Texas State some pretty important information here, but this is going to be Concord just kind of posting up, waiting for a very quick moment, seeing if even some picks could come through. Draco might have a shot here on Stuckey if he peeks a little too far.
50 seconds. I mean, you still have ample time to try to make this happen in a 3v3. But the problem is trying to get up top. Stuckey, just a bit outside. But some information will be mutually traded out. Draco with the stun might be able to find some information. Slow peek. Won't be able to find the pick.
Brag's going to come through there, but Crook, he's been able to push the advantage through the B site. Now getting just about all of the back covered. And Draco's going to be responsible for making sure there's no push through, but he might have to make a risky peek to see if he can find Crooked. Man advantage for Concord. The retake needs to be there. Draco gets info, but Crook now knows there's a sniper in the back. He doesn't need to peek him. He simply just needs to play his life.
He saw him throw it a couple shoulders. He wanted to as well, but the bait and switch comes out, but Scripps hits the flank, is able to find 1, but that's all they're going to be able to find. You can see what happened on the minimap as well. Crooked and Prodigy, they just immediately wrap back through Church. Crooked will fully hit this on the backside underneath the bridge, perhaps, and Scripps only really has about like 3 seconds to make a play, and this round is essentially over. Can't find both eliminations, won't be able to defuse the bomb either. Is just going to keep this one elimination. No, they will not. Crick will sniff them out, and a beautiful execute coming through from Concord Maroon, all off of that smoke play. They lost one early, but then they continue to push all the way forward until they got on that site, just zoning away Draco on that rooftop with that Car 98K.
Man, Concord, so far, they've just been so decisive on what it is that they want to take control of. And a lot of these rounds have come from, just finding these trades. And even after losing one of their teammates, and I think a huge part of that has been because of Crooked being able to open things up. I mean, 8-2, that's certainly going to help the 4-1 scoreline that we currently see. But if you're Texas State, you haven't found a lot of success here. You need to find something, and it looks like they're going to finally get a rush play in, and they're going to try to drop the bomb.
Pandemic for one. I mean, this would be the greatest time to do a tactic with the automaton. Is going to be able to find Prodigy as well. Now Crook has to make the play. We'll find one.
No.
Looking to even up the odds. Finds the second, but Crook would have to go massive. Has to find the ace to close out the round.
This would be for 4 in the round. And oh my, he has found 3. 25 seconds. Andrew Crook fully streaked out. Does he see him down low? The finesse!
Oh my God!
Oh! Texas State, they look so good at the start. They just barely get by the skin of their teeth at the end, but Crook almost just world starred the entire team with what was just about a 1v4, Andy.
I actually just jumped out of my seat during that. I'm not even going to lie.
I believe you.
I mean, Andrew told me he had 2 waffles, and I'm pretty sure both of those waffles just came through in that round. The last bit of that waffle, if he found the ace, but good Lord. I mean, that's just one of those things that you were highlighting, especially from Crook's perspective. You give them an inch, they're going to run a mile. 11-3 for the kid. 4-2 are the round counts, and Texas State aren't going to let Concord Maroon get up through this bridge as easily, but they don't want it.
Pandemic, he's got to get away. But a very nice frag grenade will make sure that Pandemic has no escape out of the bridge. Things will slow down as the streak, I believe, was called in. Won't find any more kills. But a stun goes in the back here. Draco finds the kill before the stun actually connects. That is just so big. But you lost another. Stuckey's been able to push up, find tactic, and another man advantage over to Concord as they still have plenty of time to play with.
Again, one player up top. Scripps will find Stuckey. Bomb doesn't even go down. And Trauma was looking for the trade. That's going to leave Crook all by their lonesome, who hasn't moved. And I think they just disconnected from the lobby. So Texas State were going to be able to close out that round, which is very frustrating, to say the least, if you are Concord Maroon. I mean, at the beginning of that round, right, it was such a small adjustment coming through. Instead of underneath the bridge, they hit it through the forest path. And they completely bamboozle all of Texas State for such a small amount of time before Texas State just figured out what was going on, and they had the angles to cover it.
They had the angles to cover it there, and everything looking much better for the side of Texas State in the last couple of rounds. Of course, that was a DC on one of the players, so we'll be trying to get that one started right back up, but I would imagine we would be starting from 4-3. Again, it was a 1v2 in the end, even though that player wasn't maybe involved in the entirety of the round. We'll certainly be up there with an update there for you guys here. But what we have come to know is that Concord have been using their numbers very, very well. They've also been using their patience, it feels like so far, Andy, to break down these sites and really force a lot of errors to come out of Texas State. And because of that, it's worked out quite well. But I think we're going to throw things to a short little break before we dive into some more. So ladies and gentlemen, bear with us. We thank you for your patience. We'll be right back with Them Yant Search and Destroy after the break. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the CCL Vanguard Open. We are currently in our round number 7, Texas State up against Concord Maroon. Now, we are joining back into this one. Concord is going to be up by a round. It is 4-3, as we'll see Texas State on the attack.
So Concord, they need to get 2 rounds. Texas State, they need to get 3. Here in this map number 3, and the bomb has already worked its way inside Church. Here's that timing. Texas State is able to find it, but they lose one along the way.
They will lose one here, 3 versus 3, but Crook has found 2. How has Crook been able to come through for 2? And now Draco, is he going to be able to find this? Here he is on the bomb. Draco doesn't have the angle. Will he be able to take him off the bomb? He cannot. Crook for 3, and Concord Maroon retake off the back end of really what was Andrew Crook.
One more round for Concord Maroon to send themselves sailing into the top 8 double elimination bracket with an undefeated record here in Swiss. But, you know, that's the automaton, right? And once we GA the damage mags, you went from 45 bullets down to 25. You throw a couple of spray bullets here and there. Once you actually get inside the gunfight, you better hope that you can either 2 or 3 bullet somebody to preserve that magazine. Otherwise, things might go crazy for you. Concord Maroon on the offense, though, they're actually kind of going back to that push that we saw before the DC actually occurred. They're hitting this all the way through the forest path.
Crook did unfortunately lose his set of streaks that he had, but he's maybe working for another set as we remake it 2 off the glide. But Scripps has been able to find Stookie. That will slow things down. Crook will also drop, but Prod able to get 1 back. So we go into a 3v2. Still plenty of time to play with, but at the moment, Concord, they're going to be playing a little bit slow, I imagine, trying to work for some picks.
Oh, and Trauma is going to be looking for this timing. The automaton back cemetery. Pandemic's going to be the player back here who's actually looking all the way over at Beep. Oh, the timing just not good enough. Now it's up to Prod. Would need the whole ace to close the round.
1v3. Too much to ask for on a map like this where there are so many places all 3 players could be positioned at. The bomb will be picked up from the side. Easy cleanup, and there it is. Texas State able to get themselves a round, keeping themselves alive as well. That's now going to bring us to a tally to 5-4 here. So Texas State still need to come out with back-to-back rounds if they're going to steal away this map 3.
How typical is that of Concord Maroon? Look, we probably would have won that round hitting it through the forest path side of Crook did in DC, right? Well, obviously not. You were able to show that one little strategy, and Texas State will never let you get away with that again. And even through the return back through the riverside, they get beamed from the top side of the rooftop. That's why the timing is just so tight here on Demyance. But Texas State, they need this round to keep the momentum going. Smoke will come out, critical cross.
Nades going out, stuns following. That frag won't find anything. Draco searching for some heads at the top of the rooftops here. Might find Stookie, but Stookie might find him. That's 1. I think he got info on the second here, too. He's going to get a glimpse of him over into the forest. But will he be able to find the shots here? A big battle to try and get a trade back here. Pandemic sees him, too, but no one's taking shots just yet.
I don't know if Stook saw him. Well, Pandemic's going to start crossing now. You better hope that you can get some good timing in Stookie. Yeah, he's going to catch him crossing. We'll throw a bullet through a tree. We'll find that elimination 2v4.
2v4. To keep yourself alive. Everything falling on Tactic and Scripps. What can they do? Tactic's got to make the play. And Stookie will be able to find him. Now a 1v4. 25 seconds left. That will be the first one there on Trauma. Scripps going to try and juke the kill cam when he looks up, but I think he saw at least 2 out of 3. Maybe all 3. He's going to be hunted down. Will he be able to turn? He's going to try, but it's not going to happen. I believe it's Crook who finishes out the last kill, and Concord Maroon will go through the entire Swiss bracket flawlessly. 7-0, this one being a tight series, but they still clutch up in the end.
Still will clutch up. They will guarantee themselves getting all the way inside of that double elimination bracket with the undefeated record. 7-0 for them. It will be a 5-2 record for Texas State, which I'm sure that they'll probably even up with a handful of other teams, given that, you know, walking into this round number 7, there was, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that were tied up 5-1, and so many other teams that were tied up 4-2. It's going to come down to that point differential, and Texas State should be more than okay. They should have more than enough point differential to put themselves inside top 8. I just don't know where they're going to be seeding at, but regardless of the matter, Concord seems like the team to truly beat on the day.
They are the team to beat. So many close sets, but it just always feels like Concord Maroon have had this clutch factor, and well, if you're new to the CCL, this is something that has pretty much just about been there just, I don't know, through season 1, 2, and 3. I mean, it's always been a thing, Andy. They've just been absolutely electric. So doing it here again for us, making sure they get to the double elimination bracket, and that's what's going to be formed next. This was our last match, as we said. We've went through 7 different rounds, but it's time to figure out how everything will end up coming together for as far as the matchups in the double elimination. We take a look on this series, and it was, you know, the excellent opening right away here for the side of Texas State. We're like, damn, these guys might be able to do it. 250 to 217, but then we had Concord bounce back 250 to 157, a lot more convincing. And then of course they get it done on Demyansk with that beautiful opening where they really went up by 3 rounds early, and that was enough to seal seal the deal. So everything looking pretty solid here for us. But now the big question is how are a lot of these tiebreakers going to work out? Because it's only 8 teams that make it through, meaning that there's probably going to be a lot of head-to-heads now that come into a factor, Andy, as we'll see the top 8 kind of move on. But there's a lot of teams fighting for it.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams fighting for it. I mean, the only team that was that one exception, of course, will be Concord Maroon. Again, the Mountain Lions out of West Virginia are the only undefeated team. They're the only ones that we know for certain walking in at the number 1 seed for the double elimination bracket. But again, when you're thinking of teams that are such as SIUE Red, you also have the potential for Arizona to be able to be in there too. Ottawa, unfortunately, had to face a couple of losses, but they, depending on how the rest of their matches ended up going, could also fight for it to be inside the top 8. It's going to be interesting again, but that's why you and I are just 2 handsome guys, right? 2 handsome Canadians just casting Call of Duty. We don't have to worry about that. That's why we got beautiful admins to handle all that for us, man. I'm just excited to be able to see what that bracket flushes out to be, because there's still a lot more Call of Duty to be played through the weekend.
Yes, there is. Reminder, we have one more match on the night. That will be a best of 5. We'll go through the winners round 1, and then, as Andy just said, tomorrow is Championship Sunday. So still so much Call of Duty. I hope you guys get fueled up, hydrated, get ready, because we got a best of 5 coming after the break. We hope to see you there.